fellow Earthlings. Oscilloscope is in the house, transmitting good vibes on all frequencies. After channeling my inner soy boy and playing regular Minecraft for my last video, my true hardcore Chad form was ready to be unleashed once again. I wanted to do another single biome challenge. Since I had already done ice spikes previously, I needed something fresh. Luckily, there was another biome that really fascinated me. Enter Badlands. Why Badlands? It is as close to ice spikes as you can get. First, no neutral mobs can spawn in Badlands. This means no villagers and no animals. Not even rabbits can naturally spawn here.
Negative.
Second, most plants don't grow here either. That means no trees, no grass, no nothing. Oh no, it's hard, but not as hard as ice spikes. Mineshafts spawn on the surface frequently, and that makes wood much less of an issue. My mind was craving something spicier.
So if you like it a little bit spicy,
enter Ultra Hardcore. To put it simply, Ultra Hardcore is a Minecraft setting that prevents natural health regeneration. This means no healing from food. The only way to restore health are golden apples and potions. Well, and a level 4 beacon, I suppose. Sounds hard yet? We can make it even harder. What if I was trapped in a small area with limited real estate? Enter World Border. This decision was a byproduct of wanting a regular Minecraft world. Once I was bored with the challenge, I went to chunk-based biome finder and continuously hit a random button. I was looking for 500 by 500 Badlands square, with no other intersecting biomes, preferably near the spawn. This was going to take a long time, but I had a game plan. Shh, I did it at work. Don't tell my boss. Finally, I found a good candidate, but there was another problem. I could not use World Border command since you can't use cheats in hardcore. Enter NBT Explorer. This little editor allows you to modify settings for your world. I generated my hardcore world, launched NBT Explorer, set my world border, and teleported my naked character to the center. My new and shiny but rather small world was now ready to be played. This limited space made certain things even more scarce. Stick around if you like to watch Minecraft torture, because boy, was it hard. Without further ado, let's get into it. Ah, smell of fresh world. But I had no time to waste.
Carpe diem.
Dead bushes provided me with an early source of sticks. I still needed planks to make a crafting table, and thus I had to find a mineshaft. Luckily, there were dime a dozen in the Badlands.
Oh my god, they are everywhere, and this chest looks too easy. Are we sure this isn't Dark Souls?
My first chest proved to be a banger. Diamonds, iron, and even torches. Now, I needed to collect some wood.
It's long, it's big, it's heavy, it's wood.
Mineshafts were going to be my only source of wood for a good while. Next,
I crafted a crafting table.
And an iron pick. I was ready to push onward, deeper into the mineshaft. Or not. There was very little for me to do on the surface.
So down it was.
On the way down, I found a big old pile of coal. It was going to power my exploits for a little while. Before getting too deep, I realized I should have stocked up on wood. So I crafted an axe and ran back up to the mineshaft to do just that. Back to our regular scheduled programming. I found my first legit iron deposit. Next, I crafted some furnaces and smelted it up. It was time to gear up. I crafted myself the most important item in the game.
I feel safer already.
Also, the stone axe was not going to cut it. After crafting an iron axe,
I was cooking.
fucking delicious.
it was time to move on though. On the way down, I found a deep dark biome. If there was an ancient city there, it would be worth exploring, but it didn't seem to be the case.
Meanwhile, I needed to get the basics, and that meant a lot more iron. I also finally had enough gold and redstone dust to make a compass.
Finally, my coordinates were revealed to me. I collected enough iron for a helmet and a chest. Then I encountered my first creeper and helped myself to some gold. It was starting to get a little busy for my liking. Despite local opposition trying to slow me down, I was progressing. Crafted myself leg armor. I saw a lot of nether in my future, so golden boots were a must. And finally, I had a full set of armor. So far, only archers were responsible for my missing health. I dug into another cavern system and barely had time for a shield swap. My plan was to find another diamond, craft a diamond pick, get some obsidian, and brute force the nether. Somehow, I managed to avoid majority of damage. That was a good thing. I would not have access to healing for a long time yet. I was tired of digging underground and decided to explore some more mineshafts. On the way up, I encountered blue walls of my world border. Yeah, I know, Gandalf. Row your boat. Perfect. A mineshaft. Just what I was looking for. I found some bread in a minecart chest, but bread was not going to restore my health. However, hunger could eventually kill me as well. Next, I found a way out. I was out and about,
Looking for easy profits like this minecart.
and a place to settle down. I found a decent spot to settle. It had the only surface water I found anywhere, and exposed spider spawner. That meant we were right by a mineshaft, which would provide me with a source of wood nearby. Plus, there was a huge cave to explore. By the power vested in me, I put a claim on the land. Before I got a source of healing, there was not much point to stay at my new home. So down it was. Deep Slate was the best place to look for diamonds, but it sure was slow with my trash tools.
Whoa, this is worthless.
It was time to deploy some new tech. A trapdoor would make me 1 block tall, so I could dig 1 block wide tunnel. Not sure if it was more efficient for diamond hunting, but at least it felt that way.
I mine all day, I mine all night, I mine non-stop till those diamonds are inside.
I must have been digging for at least an hour, but I found absolutely nothing. Enraged with my failure, I dug up and recklessly entered a big cavern to look for diamonds.
Christ.
A horde of zombies was waiting on me. This little detour was not helping me get to the nether, so I went back to the deep slate. Suddenly, I remembered some speedrun tricks. Lava and water could be mixed to create obsidian, thus bypassing the need for a diamond pick. It worked.
You are a genius!
Before I entered the portal, it dawned upon me that the world border proliferated into the nether as well. So it was entirely possible there was no fortress within my border. If that was the case, I would have been in deep trouble. However, my fears were instantly dispelled as I spawned inside one. I didn't even know that was possible. And certainly the last thing I expected.
Sir, the possibility of successfully
Spawning inside of a nether fortress.
is approximately 3,720 to 1.
Never tell me the odds.
Unfortunately, I didn't have a fire resistance potion. My original plan was to barter with piglings on the way to the fortress, but here I was. No fire resistant potion meant that if I got ignited by a blaze, I would be screwed.
And he's right, mistakes were made. And I'm frankly not happy about them.
I got my first rod, but also lost 3 hearts of health.
Not worth.
I did find nether warts, an integral part of potion making, and helped myself to it. I was running into massive amounts of wither skeletons,
Surprise, motherfucker!
and very few blazes. The few blazes that I did run into were not dropping rods. Every encounter was a bad clenching experience.
Watch out for your cornhole, bud.
I randomly got a very rare wither skull. It was not useful at this stage, but eventually a beacon sure would be nice.
Hold your horses.
I finally acquired a second rod. There was one missing piece though. I was dead set on brewing potions of regeneration, and they required a ghast tear. To get a ghast tear, I needed to kill a ghast. To kill a ghast, I needed arrows. And to find arrows, I needed piglings. I had my work cut out for me. I left the fortress by building up to the ceiling, and then traversing in a random direction for a while. Suddenly, I find myself in Basalt Delta, the worst possible nether biome, but I did spot a ghast. Next, I did something incredibly stupid. I decided to fight it with no ranged options. This could have easily ended my run, but you know what they say.
Fortune favors the brave.
Unfortunately, it did not appear to drop a ghast tear. It was time to press forward. After a skeleton picked a fight with me, I was down to 1.5 hearts. Shortly, I dropped down to 1. Now, even a fart could kill me. It was time to use advanced tech. Once again, using a trapdoor to become 1 block high, I started digging forward. I needed a biome where piglings could spawn. Finally, there it was, nether waste biome. I spotted some piglings.
I wish I could say getting down there was easy, but it really was not.
These guys were picking a fight with me, but it was no time to fight. I zoned in on a piglin and gave him some gold. After digging a hole, I secured the perimeter and proceeded to trade. After a few trades, I got my hands on my very first arrows. I still had a ton of gold before I entered the portal and a bit I collected in the nether. So I gave my friend some gold and waited.
1 hour later.
After what felt like an hour, the floor was plastered with loot. Most of it I couldn't carry due to lack of space, but I did end up with 41 arrows. It was time to bounce and see if I could spot a ghast. My shield was hanging by a thread and my tools were almost broken. Something had to give. I spotted a gas, but it was over lava, no chance to get a tear. At this point, I was starting to realize the gravity of my situation. Gas tears were elusive, and I needed healing yesterday.
If only I could get some healing.
That would be great.
Then I realized I had everything I needed to make potions of healing, and should have pursued that avenue way sooner. I did bring enough obsidian to build a spare portal for a swift exit. My axe finally gave up. Jesus, this was not the time. But I did have bow and arrows. See, they came in handy. I was out of there. My pick broke and I had no wood to make another. I had to dig with my bare hands at this point. They say don't dig directly down, but what about up? I saw the light. Well, moonlight that is. Just had to stand still and wait out the night.
Early the next morning.
It was time to move. After a long time away, I was back at home, and I could finally get some wood from a neighborhood mineshaft. Now, I had to make yet another crafting table. I had no idea where mine went. Next, I crafted an iron pick, which led to an intense sense of deja vu. It was dark outside, so I dug down to find some dirt. It was time to start farming. Melons were the name of the game. I needed them for food and for healing potions. I had some bone meal to speed up the process, as I was near starvation and needed these melons yesterday. Finally, I could craft a brewing stand. I also had some beetroots and pumpkins to plant. Next, I did something stupid. I had one water bottle from the nether, but wanted 2 more, so I could make 3 potions at a time. I needed sand though, so I went out looking. Not a good idea when I was so close to starvation. If my food meter ran out, it was an instant game over. While running around, I noticed my last hunger unit dip to half.
Warning, system failure imminent.
I had to go back home. There, I built myself the most basic shelter and waited for something to grow. I was sweating bullets. My last hunger unit could disappear at any moment, I would take health damage, and all of this would have been for nothing. Come on, little melon, you grow, girl. I was saved! Now that I wasn't starving, I made another attempt to locate sand. I wanted those extra water bottles, but sand proved to be elusive.
And this is where I put
Sand.
if I had one!
1 potion at a time it was. I made an awkward potion with a nether wart. Then, I crafted a few glistering melon slices with my newly grown melons and some leftover gold. Slid that into a brewing stand, and finally I had my first source of healing. 11 days in. This method had a lot of drawbacks. 1 potion only healed 2 hearts, and I could only make 1 potion at a time.
Not terribly efficient, is it?
My next achievement was a bed,
I had some string.
which I converted into wool and made myself a bed. I stocked up on wood in the mineshaft and lit the nether portal at my base. I had to put a roof over my head, so I made a pretty pathetic dwelling. I had big plans for a giant base down the road, thus I was not going to spend a lot of time making things pretty. Another attempt to find sand proved to be unsuccessful even after I explored the entire border. It was time to get my health back up, albeit very slowly. Making 1 potion at a time was clearly not sustainable. I had to make another nether run, aiming to trade for bottles with piglings. However, I wanted to move around the nether safely, so I was thinking of digging some tunnels at maximum height, and for that I needed lots of ladders. So I went out and collected a bunch of sticks. Then, I crafted hella ladders and entered the nether. I had a problem though. Blazes were trying to snipe me from a distance. I needed a bit more safety. So I enclosed the portal and proceeded to ladder up to make a tunnel. It didn't exactly solve my blaze problem. They were spawning in the fortification area, but as long as I had arrows, they were just free blaze rods. After a really long time of digging, I once again located another waste biome, but how do I get down there? Once again, I turned to speedrunners for answers. I crafted the boat and got into it. Here goes nothing. Miraculously, it worked. That's Minecraft's physics for you. Those speedrunners sure know what they're doing, don't they? Now that I was down safely, I lured the piglin into a hole and gave him a helmet to make sure he didn't despawn. I was hearing hella gas noises and once again tried to get a gas tear. It continued to be elusive. I gave piglins most of my gold and waited for trays to roll in. Every time I heard a ghast, I poked my head out to see if I could snag a tear, and every time the answer was
No.
Meanwhile, I was starting to run out of gold and decided to hit up some nearby gold spots. But the locals weren't having it. Eventually, I did run out of gold, patience, and health, so it was time to hoof it back to the base. Ablaze and with a skeleton were trying to set up an ambush by the portal. After all the trading efforts, piglins did bless me with a fire resistance potion, which I drank to get an empty bottle. It would have been nice to get some utility out of the potion, but now I had 2 glass bottles instead of 1. I was twice as fast and efficient at healing myself. Behold, on day 19, I was back at full health. I didn't expect this challenge to be so hard. I had lots of close calls, and it was a miracle I even survived this long.
It's a nail to the moon and to the stars. Shit's hard.
Feeling emboldened by my full health bar, I made a gold run into the big cavern by my base. While exploring a local mineshaft on a gold resupply run, I found my first golden apple.
That's what I'm talking about, baby!
This was going to come in handy. Converting zombie villagers would be an important milestone, and I needed 2 golden apples for that purpose. I discovered a pit of baddies and made them duel each other. Eventually, I finished the winners. My reward was a second golden apple.
Oh, you know it, bro.
I was seeing villagers in my future. When I returned home with my spoils, I started to put my plan into motion. I built a house to trap a zombie villager. Meanwhile, I returned to the piglin trading station trying to score another glass bottle. They were multiplying. Well, faster trades I suppose. I finally scored my 3rd glass bottle.
You know what they say. Better late than never.
Furthermore, I spotted a pile of glowstone up above. It would double the magnitude of a health potion. Naturally, I was eager to grab all of it. Somehow, I found myself with a single heart yet again, too little for comfort. It was time to go back, but not before running into another ambush. And the final potion tech was water bottles into awkward potions with a nether wart, awkward potions into health potions with a glistering melon slice, and finally glowstone doubles the magnitude. I was finally able to print reasonably strong health potions. Better yet, I could craft enough potions to carry around with me. I felt incredibly accomplished at this moment. I even started to believe this was going places. Emboldened by my new power, I started to roam outside during the night, trying to spot a zombie villager or a witch. I needed both for the next stage. Not even invisible spiders could scare me away from pressing forward. During the day, I decided to expand my farming operation. Also on the agenda was working on the spider spawner by my base. The fact that the spawner was mostly suspended in the air made working on it a slog. Nights were more eventful, but not leading to any significant finds, until I finally spotted a witch. After pelting her with arrows, she dropped me 2 empty bottles. Wouldn't that be nice to have about an hour ago?
Whoa, this is worthless.
I needed her to drop me some sugar instead. Meanwhile, I was making good progress on my spawner. The following night, I heard a familiar sound while walking about. I couldn't see him yet, but I knew a zombie villager must be nearby. I easily lured him into my pre-made trap.
It's a trap!
And to ensure that he didn't despawn, I gave him a boat. Get in the boat. I also encountered my first wandering trader, but alas, I had no emeralds to trade, so I didn't even bother checking his inventory. On the same night, I spotted another witch. Could I be this lucky? Zombie villager and sugar on the same night? The answer was
no.
She dropped me nothing. Despite my new healing powers, things would get hairy from time to time, reminding me to stay vigilant. Next, I prepared a second villager trap. Of course, farming was also high on a priority list. I would need something to trade with the villagers once I cured them. I expanded into 2 beet fields, a pumpkin field, and a melon field. I spotted another witch on my iron resupply run, but guess what?
What?
No sugar. While working on my vegetables, I spotted another zombie villager, but phantoms were patrolling the night sky. I had to run away. Miraculously, my zombie villager had followed me into a mineshaft, so I had to improvise on the spot. I managed to survive and secure the villager with only a few hearts left. I promised myself to never get caught with this little health ever again.
That is a total lie. He will drop that low. Just you wait.
My farming efforts were starting to pay off. I managed to spot another zombie villager while working, but I needed a witch instead. Meanwhile, it was time to get back to my spawner. I finished on my spawner and it was ready to be unveiled. Good old spider farm. There were definitely some technical difficulties that needed fixing though. A few chests between me and the spiders seemed to do the trick. Things were coming together. If only I could get my hands on some sugar. Few more nights passed, and I finally saw another witch. I was desperate enough to try something reckless.
No matter who you are, whatever you do, please don't try this at home.
Much like with my zombie villagers, I lured her into a trap house and gave her a boat.
Sit your ass down!
Then I lured my other zombie villager trapped in the mineshaft into the same place. I put them side by side in the boats in front of the witch. Next came an extremely dangerous part of putting myself into harm's way. After a butt clenching experience, it finally happened. My witch splashed us with a potion of weakness. This allowed me to hand out golden apples to the zombie villagers. After getting my health back from a catastrophic state,
I honestly have no idea how this clown didn't die.
I took my revenge on the witch. I did not need to endure her abuse any longer. As an insult, she dropped me sugar. My first villager was cured in front of my eyes. My second was not far behind. I guess
fortune favors the brave.
After all, this was a momentous occasion. It took me almost 40 days, but I finally felt like I made it.
Cause we started from the bottom, now we're here.
Next part was easy. I already had a beet operation cooking me up some beets. I promptly traded them for emeralds, which I instantly turned into bread. I then placed a bunch of beds in the area and gave them the bread. It worked right away. I was seeing enchants in my future, but was lacking sugarcane to make paper, a crucial ingredient for books, and thus bookshelves. There was, however, another way. Librarian villages can sell bookshelves. However, to get librarian villagers, I needed lecterns, and to get lecterns, I needed bookshelves. A few minutes on Minecraft Wiki, and a solution was born.
Okay, so I decided, oh shit, buddy, I gotta dig a little deeper.
Fishing! I expanded my water area to make sure it counts as open water and proceeded to fish. I scored my first enchanted book almost right away.
Several days later.
The second one didn't come as easy, but I got it in the end. I had a third enchanted book lying around from my previous exploits. Thus, I had all the ingredients for a lectern. A few minutes later, I had a librarian who sold me bookshelves. I went to town converting beets into bookshelves. I had enough bookshelves to make a full enchanting setup at my spawner. I scored Fortune 3 on my pick right away. How fortunate. This led to a long session at Deep Slate level trying to score diamonds.
In case you got amnesia, man, I want that blue stuff. I got my iron pick with a fortune buff.
I was not having a lot of luck though. Worst of all, I was somehow triggering shriekers on the other side of the wall and did not want to face the warden.
Mojang. What the hell is this horse shit?
Tactical retreat was in order. Eventually, my perseverance paid off. After collecting 24 diamonds and being thoroughly bored, I went back to craft some diamond gear. I got enough for chests, leggings, and boots before I ran out. Then, I hit my gear with some enchants. I wasn't looking for anything perfect, just good enough. With enchanting out of the way, I was starting to plan out a large mega build. In my build, I wanted to use quite a few iron blocks, and the iron golem farm was the only way I was going to get there. I started collecting and crafting necessary materials for the said golem farm. Terracotta, rails, wood, you name it. At night, I was chilling at my spider farm and continuing to work on my gear. Iron farm material list, while being extensive, was coming together nicely. I finally had all the required materials and was ready to get building. There was only one problem though. My diamond pick was falling apart, so it was time to score a mending book. I used the good old electron trick, but eventually my villagers went to bed and I had nothing to show for it.
One eternity later.
I finally saw a mending book and instantly locked it in. I was not going to complain about the price this time. I slapped mending on my pick, and now it was just a matter of time repairing it. I saw another wandering trader, but he did not have saplings on him. Oh well. I was finally prepared to construct my iron golem farm. I built this variety before, so I felt confident in its capabilities. I was rapidly progressing and was nearing completion when a disaster struck.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
All my villagers were now either dead or zombified. I did not properly secure the perimeter and the zombie must have gotten in. This was a low blow.
And by the way, they were also on fire.
I needed villagers for my iron farm to work, and I had no more golden apples to easily fix this issue. I was raging. There was no other choice but to go mineshafting again. Luckily, my first golden apple came easy.
Yes!
But one apple does not a village make. The second apple was much more of an ordeal. I explored every inch of every mineshaft nearby and had to go looking for more. On the bright side, there was still unexplored mineshafts to be had. Much to my displeasure, they were becoming a maze-like slog of enemies and dead ends. Yet another mineshaft yielded nothing. I was getting angsty and running out at night to find another candidate. My third mineshaft did finally pay off with another golden apple.
Tax dollars at work!
All I had to do is return back, but easier said than done. I was hopelessly lost. Eventually, I did make it back. Next task was converting zombie villagers back into human form. On the positive side, I did have sugar to brew a splash potion of weakness this time around. What I lacked was a brown mushroom. This meant yet another detour into the Nether Fortress. After acquiring said mushroom, I had all the ingredients to craft the fermented spider eye. I brewed a splash potion with a little gunpowder and converted it into a splash potion of weakness. I was happy I did not need to resort to witch shenanigans this time around. I splashed my zombies and gave them 2 golden apples. The third one had to die. Unfortunately, it just happened to be my mending librarian. Once again, I had villagers. After giving them some bread and instructing them to be fruitful and multiply, it was time to finish building my iron golem farm. Despite my expertise in the farm design, my rail system was uncooperative and took a while to fix. Now came the arduous task of moving villagers into the pods. Thus, I built a rail system to kidnap villagers from their outpost and into the pods. However, when I came to whisk my villagers away, I was disappointed to see that they were not breeding. I tried fixing the situation. First, allowed more beds. Second, luring back a loose straggler, and finally giving them hella bread. I crossed my fingers and walked away. That did the trick. It was time to transport them into the concentration voluntary worksite.
Where's your god now? Please save you.
During the Great Migration, I saw a wandering trader. He had dark oak saplings. This would solve all my wood issues. I rushed to buy 2. However, after spending a metric ton of bone meal and not getting a full tree, I realized something was amiss. Quick wiki search informed me that dark oak requires 4 saplings in 2x2 configuration. Unfortunately, I bought only 2, and the trader was gone by the time I realized.
There may be a situation here in which a serious mistake was made.
Deflated, I continued to ferry villages to the iron farm, which was officially taking a very long time. Eventually though, I ferried enough villagers to fill all the pods and was ready to capture a zombie. The easiest way to do that was to put a zombie in the boat and then into the minecart. However, that led to some strange Minecraft physics. After a few more attempts, I got the zombie on the farm loop. Now, I just had to chase him down to break the boat, as it was leading to minecart not stopping properly. Easier said than done though. After a long struggle, the zombie was properly going around my farm, and it started to produce iron. There was a big problem though. I soon realized it will be having huge efficiency issues. Iron golems were spawning underneath the farm, which meant no more golems could spawn until they're killed. I just couldn't catch a break. It was time to slab a big area underneath the farm to prevent this issue. The iron farm was officially an ordeal. This meant I needed to flatten quite a bit of terrain first. It didn't feel like a total waste of time. My mega build required a large amount of terracotta, and this was a good way to get my hands on it. I was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Eventually, after slabbing for a few hours, I was not seeing any illegal golems. This meant better iron rates, and I needed a lot of iron. Probably worth the effort. It was time to start a final push towards my mega project. That meant collecting various materials in extra large quantities. I set my sights on deep slate first. I ran down to deep slate level and went to town. I was also hoping to score diamonds along the way. Surprisingly, I hardly found any diamonds, but that wasn't my primary goal anyway. Inventory space was becoming an issue, so it was time to craft an ender chest. I didn't have access to shulker boxes, so an ender chest was the best I could do for a while. First, I needed to acquire a silk touch pick though. Luckily, I had a silk touch enchant sitting on my enchanting table from the get-go. Another long deep slate session led to a double chest worth of deep slate, more than enough. Next, I consolidated all my terracotta and was pleased with the amounts I already had. I would still need more, but it would not be a huge bottleneck. That title would go to glass. I had no chance of getting my hands on large quantities of sand. it was time for a big brain solution. After doing some research, I homed in on a void trading system that would technically allow trades with the villagers without them running out. It was a bit of a cheat solution, but no worse than sand duping. First, I needed bulk material to trade, and my best bet was a mighty pumpkin. It was time to retrofit everything into pumpkin fields. They were quick to start producing. Next, I decided to solve my wood issue and set up a shroomlight farm at the same time. I went back to the Nether and found a crimson forest. Now that I had Feather Falling 4, getting down was definitely easier. Once down, I built up a staircase back to the ceiling, collected a ton of crimson fungus, and got some crimson nylium. Back by my iron farm, I set up a patch, built a water elevator, and collected crimson wood plus any shroomlights. I might not have gotten any saplings from the wandering trader yet, but my wood problem was officially solved, just in time. My local mine shafts were starting to run dry. Next, I decided to tackle stone. Stone was as easy as a silk touch pick and a bit of time right by my base. Remember I spoke about a void trading system? Well, what I didn't show you is hours of failed prototypes and me having to rebuild it 3 different times to make it work. It's not terribly exciting content. Now for the basic premise. If you unload a chunk with a villager while trading the windows open, it does not log the trade. I had 2 villagers on each end of a rail track, and I would be transported between 2 of them, while each villager would also be transported away from me on a separate rail track. Thus, trade emeralds for pumpkins with one, then trade emeralds for glass with the other. Rinse and repeat ad nauseum. This method also produced quite a bit of experience as a byproduct, a nice bonus. Once my trading operation was up and running, it was just a matter of time and patience to get all the glass. Getting glass was no longer an issue. My next best stop was the Nether. I needed soul sand and a lot more shroomlights. Getting shroomlights from the tree farm proved to be slow and inefficient. Orange terracotta was now on my radar, so I went to absolute town on any orange terracotta in the vicinity. White terracotta proved to be more elusive. To collect it, I remembered the trapdoor trick. This way I could just excavate a single layer at a time. Next, I crafted some miscellaneous items. Lanterns were crafted using coal I found during the stone excavation, and iron courtesy of my iron farm. Same iron was used for chains as well. Crafting massive amounts of chests wasn't problematic either. My crimson fungus farm was paying off. Crimson wood was also used to craft signs and ladders. While visualizing my build, I realized it would be a miserable experience to work on a tall project without an elytra or natural health regeneration. Fall damage was unavoidable, and I didn't want to brew health potions for days. It was finally time to get a beacon. I already had a wither skull from my earlier misadventures, so I just needed 2 more. Farming for wither skulls is not a particularly fast affair. Luckily, I grew up playing Diablo 2, I was no stranger to repetitive tasks. After looting my second skull, I managed to get lost. Once again, I found myself in the Nether with just half a heart separating me from total failure. I really need to stop doing that. Somehow, I managed to avoid death and escape back to my base. All that was left was to face the Wither, preferably underground. I did just that and made quick work of him. At last, I was a proud owner of my very own beacon. As I was doing last preparations, a wandering trader showed up. He did me a solid and brought oak saplings with him. Day 131, a momentous day in my ultra-hardcore Badlands journey. I was perfectly alive and had all the materials to pull off a slick build. I threw together a time-lapse, wrote a new synthwave track, and this is the result. See you in a few.
dreams of sleep, mainly those involving you and me. And you can't see me coming when I'm feeling right. Oh, when we are apart, and every stop sign wastes a little too much time. Our journey just began when I held your hand. You know I feel right when you're around. I know you feel it too, and I am there to pick you up when you are down, and you're in for me too. And you can't see me coming when I'm feeling right. Oh, when we are apart, and every stop sign wastes a little too much time. Our journey just began when I held your hand. Da 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 da. When I held your hand. Da 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 da. When I held your hand. When I held your
Finally, after 11ish hours, my mega base was complete. However, there were a few issues. I ran short of some iron blocks. Unfortunately, my iron farm was stalled and needed fixing. Furthermore, I wanted to change up the side windows and make them a little more interesting. Before any of that, I was overdue for a spring cleaning. I spent a few hours organizing and consolidating all of my miscellaneous chests, and then proceeded to move all essentials to my base. Then it was time to tackle my ailing iron farm. One of the villager pods was completely empty, probably a result of me not including a light source on the inside. It was time to transport villagers to my farm yet again. However, the game was conspiring against me by spawning a zombie raid. The farm was cursed, I swear. Next, familiar sight of corralling villagers into buildings without their consent. Now, I needed to move a couple of villagers into the base. I think you're intimately familiar with the process by now. I selected an area in my base, placed a bunch of beds, gave them a ton of bread, and called it a day. Another task on my bucket list was to expand the slab area underneath the iron farm. The iron rates were still very much subpar. Once the fix was in, I wanted some new drip. My tools and armor were falling apart. I proceeded to acquire a mending villager, a replacement for the one who perished. This time around, Minecraft gods blessed me with mending right away. Utilizing void trading tech, I farmed experience for a while. After acquiring all the mending books, it was just a matter of putting them on my gear. I became a proud owner of a mending shield and an infinity bow. I could not end this playthrough without crafting at least one golden apple. Oaks are by far the lamest trees, but they still provided me with my first apples. A stacking source of healing was a welcomed addition. Plus, it felt like a status symbol. To cap this ultra hardcore run, I made windows in my base a little more exciting and fixed the roof. It felt like a good stopping point. I could have rounded up to 200 days, but there was nothing else I wanted to tackle on that time scale. This is it, guys. Despite numerous setbacks, challenges, and close calls, somehow I made it this far. I'm amazed at everything I was able to achieve. It was an incredibly educational playthrough, albeit a butt-clenching one. I learned a lot of new tricks and built a pretty dope base as a monument to my perseverance. It also happens to be my largest Minecraft project to date, but I'm not even close to being done. I have big ideas. My intentions are to continuously develop this world for years. I already have a few ideas rattling in my head, so be on the lookout for more videos. However, don't expect them too soon at Dad Life. If you made it this far, I love you. Don't forget to do all that YouTube stuff, yeah I know.
This video took countless hours, and while it was made purely to document my journey, I hope it can serve as a source of entertainment and inspiration to others. And on that note,
A still escape is beaming out.